So on the night of the 88th Academy Awards on February 28th, 2016, Leonardo DiCaprio finally won his Oscar. It was a moment a long time coming. He had been nominated many times throughout the decades. This was finally his big victory. The room stood up for him. Everybody was so excited he had finally gotten an Academy Award. One of the most excited people in the room that night for DiCaprio was his Titanic co-star Kate Winslet. She was nominated that night in Best Supporting Actress for her performance in Steve Jobs. And for all of us Titanic fans out there, we got really close to both of them winning an Oscar that night. We could have had many photos of DiCaprio and Winslet embracing with both of their trophies. Because, I don't know if you remember this, Kate Winslet actually came pretty close to winning that night in Best Supporting Actress. She was not just a happy to be there nominee. She had won the Golden Globe Award and the BAFTA Award. She had taken both of those big televised precursor wins, and on the night, it looked like she had a shot. There was really only one other person who could beat her, and that was Alicia Vikander for the Danish Girl. Vikander had an amazing 2015 with not only Tom Hooper's The Danish Girl, which came out at the end of the year, but also Alex Garland's Ex Machina, my favorite film of the year, which she is incredible in. Best Supporting Actress at the Oscars that year was definitely a two-way race, and it was Vikander who was ultimately victorious. Why did Alicia Vikander defeat Kate Winslet for Best Supporting Actress? Hey guys, it's Brian. Welcome to the awards contender. It's time for another Oscar race retrospective, Vikander versus Winslet. To start, let's discuss the nominees, beginning with Jennifer Jason Leigh, The Hateful Eight.
You ain't gonna be able to get away with any more than, say, one body per horse. So that's you leading a string of 4 horses into Red Rock.
So here's an interesting scenario in that my favorite performance in the category, I do think, was dead last in order of like who might actually win. Jennifer Jason Leigh chews the scenery in Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight as Daisy Darmagoo, a prisoner with a bounty hunter during a Wyoming winter who finds shelter in a cabin inhabited by a collection of characters. I think Jennifer Jason Leigh gives a go for broke performance in this movie. It is out there, you know, by the end, you can't really believe what you're seeing, what she's doing on the screen, but boy, does she give a memorable performance in The Hateful Eight. Definitely the best one in the movie, I would say, even though Samuel L. Jackson is great as always, Kurt Russell is fantastic. This was Quentin Tarantino's follow-up to Django Unchained. He wanted to make another Western, gather a bunch of great actors basically in one space, and have them talk it out, have violence, have moments that surprise the viewer. And it's not a movie for everybody, The Hateful Eight, but I've always really loved that one. I've seen it 2 or 3 times, and I get so much out of it. I feel like it's kind of underrated in the Tarantino catalog. It's a really great movie, and Jennifer Jason Leigh just rips through that thing. She's so freaking awesome. And looking through all the precursor ceremonies that year for Best Supporting Actress, I was surprised to see that Jennifer Jason Leigh only made it into a couple places. She got in at the Golden Globes and she got in at BAFTA. She did not get a SAG nomination for The Hateful Eight, which is crazy to me. She did not get in at SAG for that. Now, I think the problem was The Hateful Eight, it just wasn't as well received as many of other Tarantino's movies around that time, like Inglourious Basterds and Django Unchained. The Hateful Eight, like, it got nominations for certain things along the way, but it wasn't getting into picture, director, screenplay. People just didn't love it as much as his previous movie, Django Unchained, so I think that hurt Jennifer Jason Leigh in the long run. I am so happy she at least got the nomination. You know, she has been around since the 80s, doing lots of really good work in film, lead roles, supporting roles, comedy, drama. She got close in the 90s a couple times, I would say, to an Oscar nomination, and it never happened, so I'm happy at least, even though she was never going to win, I'm happy she got the Oscar nomination for The Hateful Eight. Rooney Mara, Carol.
Do you know much about train sets?
I do, actually, and we just got a new model in last week. It's hand-built with hand-painted cars. It's a limited edition of 5,000. You might have seen it on the way in over by the elevators.
Alright, so I'm going to talk about category fraud in this video more than once. Here we begin with Rooney Mara, who gives a lead performance in Carol by Todd Haynes, the lesbian love story co-starring Kate Winslet, set in 1950s New York, an aspiring photographer played by Mara developing an intimate relationship with an older woman. It is very strange to me that Rooney Mara is nominated in supporting. I guess because Kate Winslet is the bigger name of the movie, she gets to go and lead and Mara is relegated to supporting. I mean, Mara had gotten into lead actress 4 years before for The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And by all accounts, I do think Mara wanted to be run in lead for Carol, not supporting. I don't think she was happy about being in supporting for that. But I guess, like, if they had ran both of them in lead, maybe only Kate Winslet had gotten in, and then Rooney Mara might not have even been nominated. So that's the problem with category fraud sometimes. I can be, like, mad about the fraud of it all. But sometimes it does allow really good performances to get nominated at the Oscars. So there's kind of a give and take with it. It would have been really wrong, I think, for Mara to not have been recognized for that performance. She is extraordinary in that film. It's kind of a quiet interior performance. It is something that could have gone overlooked, maybe. I do think Mara having that previous Oscar nomination helped. Like by 2015, if she had never really been recognized with major award nominations for a film yet, like maybe they would have just nominated Blanchett and called it a day. I am so happy Mara is here. She was also never going to win. The nomination was the win for her. I think primarily because Carol did not get into picture or director, but Mara, unlike Jennifer Jason Leigh, got in pretty much everywhere for her performance in Carol. She got into supporting actress basically everywhere past the Globes. At the Globes, she is in lead actress in a motion picture drama alongside Kate Winslet. So the Globes did the right thing. They pulled a Thelma and Louise and said, these are two lead performances, so they're both going into lead at our ceremony. But basically everywhere after that, she is supporting, Blanchett is lead. And so I guess it was a way to keep Mara in the conversation. But yeah, she was never going to win for Carol. Rachel McAdams, Spotlight.
I think that the language is going to be so important here. We can't sanitize this. Just saying molest isn't enough. People need to know what actually happened.
So I would put Rachel McAdams in third place, like as a possibility to win, even though that was never going to happen. But because Spotlight ended up winning Best Picture at the Oscars that year, and because Spotlight won SAG Ensemble, like I talked about in my previous Oscar race retrospective about Best Supporting Actor that year, when Mark Ruffalo on his third nomination got in for Spotlight, and like maybe had a slight chance there. Rachel McAdams, I think because this was her first nomination and still is after all this time, because it is a pretty quiet, subtle performance in Spotlight. I mean, even Ruffalo like has one big, overly dramatic scene. McAdams never really has that. She's very good in it, very powerful, but there's not a moment in Spotlight where you're like, oh my god, you know, give her the Oscar trophy. She's just very, very good as one of the reporters at the Boston Globe who uncovered the massive scandal of child molestation and cover-up within the local Catholic archdiocese. Basically everybody in Spotlight is great. Not just Ruffalo, not just McAdams. You also have Michael Keaton and Liev Schreiber, John Slattery, Stanley Tucci, the list goes on and on. But I really do like that nomination for McAdams. She had been doing such great work for many years in genre films, you know, comedy, horror, a lot of different things. She has a lot of presence on screen no matter what the film is, and it just seemed like a matter of time. The right project, like the right role, maybe she could get in at the Oscars, and Spotlight was it. Like going into award season, it looked to be competitive in picture for sure, in screenplay, and in the acting categories. Weirdly, the Golden Globes didn't really go for Spotlight in acting. They didn't nominate Rachel McAdams in supporting actress. McAdams missed at the Globes and at BAFTA. So it's possible she could have missed at the Oscars. She only got in at Critics' Choice and SAG. She won SAG Ensemble with the cast. I think that helped her a little bit. Like Leigh and Mara, I do think McAdams was just happy to be there. Like all three of these actresses I've talked about so far, all three I would say probably had like a 0.7% chance of winning. it was always coming down to Winslet or Vikander. Kate Winslet, Steve Jobs.
I love you, Steve. You know how much. I love that you don't care how much money a person makes. You care what they make. But what you make isn't supposed to be the best part of you.
So between the mid-90s to the late 2000s, Kate Winslet had had quite the remarkable run at the Oscars. She had been nominated 6 times in less than 15 years. I think she came closest in those early times for Sense and Sensibility. Like, she had won a couple things for that. Like, that might have happened, but no, she had to wait a few years until The Reader 2008. She won for that in Best Actress. It was like, okay, finally, Kate Winslet has her Academy Award. So then she goes on and does like Mildred Pierce for television, wins an Emmy, and she's in a handful of films in the 2010s. But along comes Steve Jobs 2015, and it looks like immediately this is another ticket to the Oscars for Kate Winslet. This really compelling film, directed by Danny Boyle, tells of Steve Jobs, played by Michael Fassbender, who also got into the Oscars and Best Actor. Steve Jobs unfolds backstage at 3 product launches, ending in 1998 with the unveiling of the iMac. Winslet plays Joanna Hoffman, a Polish marketing executive who worked closely with Steve Jobs. And something that really showcases the acting in that movie is the long takes. Like, oftentimes actors will be talking back and forth as the camera swoops around them, and you get to see these amazing, talented actors work together, like develop their chemistry, have their back and forth and arguments and everything. Michael Fassbender and Kate Winslet have an emotional charge in this movie. Their chemistry is so interesting from scene to scene as they get older, as time passes. This was easily Kate Winslet's finest film performance of the 2010s, I would say. She is remarkable in Steve Jobs. And so when she won the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actress, I thought, oh my God! Like, we only had to wait a few more years and Winslet is back as the Oscar frontrunner. She was a notorious awards loser there for many years. She would be nominated all over the place for films like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and Little Children. She would never win, but then remember, she won 2 Golden Globes in early 2009 for both The Reader in Supporting Actress and Revolutionary Road in Lead Actress. And you would think after that season, like, awards voters would cool on her, but no, like, she wins an Emmy, and then she's back at the Globes with Steve Jobs. She wins there, gives a very charming speech, as expected.
These categories they're so crowded and crammed with incredible skill and integrity, and I feel prouder than ever this year to be included. I really, truly do.
She doesn't win at Critics' Choice. She doesn't win at SAG. But she does win at BAFTA in Best Supporting Actress for Steve Jobs. On her walk up to the stage, there's a quick embrace with DiCaprio, who's seated in the audience, very happy for her. So the Titanic reunion of it all was getting me excited for Oscars nights. I was like, damn, could we have both DiCaprio and Winslet win acting trophies the same night at the Oscars? That would have been really cool. As a huge Titanic fan, I was kind of hoping for that, because the last person I'm going to talk about in this video, I was not really looking forward to her beating Winslet. Alicia Vikander, the Danish Girl.
I need to talk to my husband. I need to hold my husband. I need him.
So as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, 2015 was a huge year for Alicia Vikander. She had been working before that, but that was the year she was in both Ex Machina and The Danish Girl, and she started getting nominated all over the place for both performances. So this did kind of seem like her moment. A young actress breaking through that year with 2 performances that were very much acclaimed. I prefer the Ex Machina performance, her role as Ava, an android who starts to develop more thoughts of her own, develops a willingness to break out of her prison cell and live. Alex Garland's directorial debut feature is brilliant, so compelling all the way through, a great ensemble cast, so surprising in its narrative, so thrilling and satisfying at the end. Alicia Vikander in Ex Machina is a star. I was gobsmacked by her performance in this movie. I don't think I'd ever seen her in something before, like maybe something small, but I walked out of that theater in early 2015. Like, who is this actress? Like, wow, what a performance. I would love to see her get in at the Oscars for Ex Machina. That would be so inspired. And at the Golden Globes, she got into supporting actress. She was nominated there, not for the Danish Girl, but for Ex Machina. And I thought that was really awesome. At BAFTA, they also did the right thing by nominating Vikander in supporting actress for Ex Machina. Like, that was the right call. That's what the Oscars should have done as well, but we'll talk about it. I knew because of the genre elements of Ex Machina, the science fiction of it all, I was like, it's going to be tough to get this into picture, director, the acting categories at the Oscars. They don't always go for more genre films in those categories. So even though the Golden Globes and BAFTA did the right thing, it wasn't a surprise to me really on Oscar nominations morning when in Best Supporting Actress, Alicia Vikander did not get into Supporting Actress for Ex Machina. She got into Supporting Actress for a lead performance in The Danish Girl, directed by Tom Hooper, which tells the true life story of Danish artists Lily and Gerda, who navigate their marriage as Lily undergoes a journey as a transgender pioneer. I don't know about you, but The Danish Girl, like weeks before it even came out, I was kind of like standoffish with this one, because it felt in every way like an Oscar bait movie. Directed by Tom Hooper, it's an old-fashioned kind of costume drama about a serious subject, but like starring Eddie Redmayne as a transgender person, that didn't feel right to me. I wasn't a big fan of Hooper's previous two films that also got into the Oscars, so when it came to The Danish Girl, I was like, well, I guess I have to see it if it becomes an Oscar nominee, which I predicted it would, and it did, although it didn't do as well as I think some people thought it might. Like, it only got 4 nominations total. It also got into costume design and production design, lead actor for Redmayne, and supporting actress, of course, for Vikander. If The Danish Girl had shown up on Oscar nominations morning with 7, 8, 9 nominations, got into picture and director, I would have said, I think Winslet is out of this for Steve Jobs, because that movie only got 2 nominations, the other being for Fassbender and lead actor. I would have said, okay, I think this is going to Vikander. It's going to happen. But then Winslet won at BAFTA, and I thought, well, like, Winslet has now won 2 big prizes, as we saw that year in the other supporting acting category. Mark Rylance didn't really win much outside of BAFTA for supporting actor, but then as I talked about in that Oscar race retrospective a few weeks ago, he won the Oscar, just having won BAFTA. So in that regards, I thought maybe Winslet can pull this off. Even though she just won a few years ago, that was in lead actress. She's so breathtakingly good in Steve Jobs. It's a truly transformative performance. I thought there might not be enough enthusiasm for The Danish Girl for Alicia Vikander to win the Oscar at the end of the day. But no, J.K. Simmons came out on stage. He was the previous year's winner for supporting actor for Whiplash, one of the great acting wins, I would say, of that decade. After talking about all 5 of the nominees and Best Supporting Actress, he opened the envelope and said this.
Alicia Vikander, The Danish Girl.
So yeah, Vikander won over Winslet to muted applause, I would say. There's not much excitement in the room. Everyone's like, okay. She gives a very brief speech. She recognizes her director, Tom Hooper, and he's over there doing this, Hi, it's me, it's Tom, it's me. Always bugs me every time I watch that speech. But it's pretty short. She's off the stage. She is now an Academy Award-winning actress, Alicia Vikander. For a movie that not a lot of people really care for, The Danish Girl, what if she had won for Ex Machina, right? What if that had been a win for the science fiction genre? For her best performance in the movies in 2015. That would have been one of my favorite acting Oscar wins of the decade, if she had won for the right movie in the right category. But the Academy got that one wrong, and this is, I'm sorry to say, my least favorite win of the decade in supporting actress at the Oscars. I just don't think there's anything that remarkable about what Vikander does in The Danish Girl. So why did she win? Why did she beat Winslet and the other three? Why did Alicia Vikander take Best Supporting Actress at the 88th Academy Awards? I have 10 reasons. The 10 reasons why Vikander won. Let's start with number 1, Ex Machina. Ex Machina, I think, is maybe the most important reason why Alicia Vikander took the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. I think awards voters recognized just how good she was in Ex Machina, and I do think the passion many people had, many awards voters probably had for her performance in Ex Machina, that propelled her to a win that's not only, I think, for The Danish Girl. So I do think awards voters were looking at both movies, recognizing how different the performances were. And at the Oscars, Ex Machina did get into a few places, like it got into original screenplay for Alex Garland. It won Best Visual Effects. Remember that shocker? Like over Star Wars The Force Awakens, over Mad Max Fury Road, Ex Machina took Best Visual Effects. So people were watching and loving that movie, and I think when they were looking at Best Supporting Actress, seeing Vikander's name, they might have appreciated her performance in The Danish Girl. It's not a bad performance, it's just not very memorable, I would say. I do think they looked at her name, they didn't necessarily stare at the title, The Danish Girl. They thought Vikander, also great in Ex Machina. Let's vote for her this year. Number 2, The Danish Girl was a very awards-friendly movie. It's a period costume drama, emotionally charged at times. She's got crying scenes, and it's that kind of film, kind of performance, like especially I would say in the 80s and 90s, Academy voters just ate up, right? Like it's the kind of movie you don't even have to see it. All you have to do is watch the trailer and you know it's going to be an Oscar-nominated film. It doesn't matter how good or great or mediocre or whatever, like it's getting into the Oscars no matter what. If it's coming out at the end of the year, if there's a big awards campaign for that movie, like it's getting in, even if it's going to miss picture and director, as The Danish Girl did. I just think because it was very awards friendly, The Danish Girl, because Eddie Redmayne got into Best Actor, so it was a movie being watched. It was being considered also in costume design and production design. It just made sense that a movie like that would get nominated and most likely win something. Number 3, director Tom Hooper. I do think he played a factor here as well because his last 2 films also won acting Oscars. The King's Speech 2010, which took picture and director, it got nominated in 3 of the 4 acting categories and won Best Actor for Colin Firth. And then 2 years after that, you get to Les Miserables, which gets into Best Actor for Hugh Jackman and Best Supporting Actress for Anne Hathaway. Hathaway wins Best Supporting Actress for that. So 3 years later, why not have his next movie win another acting Oscar? I remember thinking that night after Vikander won, I was like, I should have known. Like, it's Tom Hooper. The man cannot miss. Every movie he makes is very awards friendly and it gets into a bunch of categories and it wins his Actors Academy Awards. Like, this man cannot be stopped. Well, he was stopped a few years later when he made Cats, of course, which I've also talked about on the channel. Cats put a very definitive end, I would say, to the career of Tom Hooper. But in 2015, 2016, we were still a few years away from Cats, and Tom Hooper was a director who could guarantee, basically, his actors nominations, and even a few of them wins. Number 4, Kate Winslet was not overdue to win an Oscar. She had won Best Actress for The Reader a few years before. It had been a few years. It wasn't like 2 years before. It was 7 years prior, 2008. So I feel like enough time had passed. It was a different category. It was supporting actress now. She's so great in Steve Jobs. It made sense that, oh, this could kind of go with her lead actress win for The Reader. I just think Academy members looked at Kate Winslet at the Oscars. They said, you know, she's already won. She has won. We don't need to give her a second this early, like maybe down the road. So I do think if Winslet had not won for The Reader, let's say that had gone to Meryl Streep for Doubt, and in 2016, Kate Winslet had still never won, and she had taken the prizes at the Golden Globes and BAFTA, I do think she would have beaten Alicia Vikander. I think that would have happened. Winslet having an Academy Award already did kind of sink her chances. Number 5, Steve Jobs flopped big time at the box office. Now, The Danish Girl didn't do extraordinarily well either, but that's a different kind of film. It's a costume period drama about a transgender person that was never going to make $100 million. The Danish Girl did not do very well in the United States. It only made about 11, 12 million, but it did very well internationally. It made like over 50 million internationally. But Steve Jobs tanked big time. They did not do a good rollout for that movie. I still remember this, like a decade ago. It started off as kind of a limited release for maybe 1 week, and then right before Halloween, they released it on a ton of screens around the country, and that was not the right call for Steve Jobs. That movie, I think, needed to build in word of mouth for many, many weeks, I would say, and then maybe go a little wider around Thanksgiving, like into December. They pushed it out on too many screens too fast. So another reason why Kate Winslet lost, I think, is because the movie did not do well with audiences. If Steve Jobs had made 70, 80, 90 million, if it had stuck around in theaters all throughout like November, December, then maybe she could have won. But because audiences kind of rejected the film, it did not do well at the box office. The budget for Steve Jobs was $30 million before marketing. In the United States, it only made 17 million, and then it made only another 17 million or so internationally for a worldwide total of 34 million. That's not very good for Steve Jobs. That should have made, I would say, at least 70 to 80 worldwide. That movie with that amazing cast and director and screenwriter coming out in October, like a fall release, a big awards contender, that should have made more money than only 34 million worldwide. So I think because the movie flopped, that's also why Winslet lost. Number 6, Kate Winslet never defeated Alicia Vikander for The Danish Girl. The 2 times Winslet won in Best Supporting Actress at the Globes and at BAFTA, Vikander was in Supporting Actress for Ex Machina. So by the time we got to Oscars night, we were seeing for the very first time Winslet up against Vikander in The Danish Girl. That had never happened before. The 2 times Winslet had won in Supporting Actress, Vikander was nominated for The Danish Girl in Lead Actress, where she lost both times, of course, to Brie Larson in Room. Brie Larson swept the season that year in Best Actress. Nobody was beating her. So if Vikander had gone all season long in Lead Actress, like she was never going to win. But her being nominated at the Oscars in Supporting Actress for The Danish Girl, there was a shot there. Like it could happen, but if she had gotten in at the Oscars in Supporting Actress for Ex Machina, Winslet probably would have won, the same way she did at the Globes and at BAFTA.
I kept saying to Alicia Vikander, just get your speech ready, you'll be up there in a minute and then it will all be over and you can just relax.
Which takes me to reason number 7. If the entire season Alicia Vikander had been nominated in Best Supporting Actress for The Danish Girl, she probably would have swept. Winslet probably would not have won for Steve Jobs at either the Globes or BAFTA. Just like Brie Larson sweeping in Lead Actress for Room, I bet if Vikander had been nominated in Supporting Actress for only The Danish Girl all the way through, Winslet probably would have lost everything. Like maybe she could have taken the Globe or BAFTA, maybe one of them. But I do think, especially at BAFTA, if Vikander had been in Supporting Actress for The Danish Girl and not Ex Machina, like Vikander probably would have won there over Winslet, and then she would have been an easier call to make at the Oscars. Number 8 is that there was zero competition, I would say, from the other 3 nominees in Supporting Actress. Kate Winslet was the only person who could have won over Vikander, I would say. Like Vikander didn't have to worry about Rachel McAdams, Rooney Mara, Jennifer Jason Leigh. All 3 of those women, I would say, were just happy to be there. Like if Rachel McAdams, let's say, had won in a surprise in SAG in Supporting Actress, not just SAG Ensemble, If there was a three-way race there, like if McAdams had a shot maybe to win at the Oscars with Spotlight taking Best Picture and stuff, there might have been enough chaos in the category if it was really close. Like let's say Vikander beat Winslet with just a few hundred votes or something. If enough votes had gone to McAdams instead of Vikander, maybe Winslet could have pulled it off. But because the race was really just between two people, like there wasn't any chance the other three could win. It was just too tall of a mountain, I would say, for Winslet to climb. Number 9, category fraud. I do think in a way Vikander won Best Supporting Actress for The Danish Girl because of the category fraud. Because she's kind of the lead actress in that movie. She's in a ton of The Danish Girl. It's not like she just has a few select scenes and then we never see her again. And it's not like Kate Winslet is only in like 10 minutes of Steve Jobs. She's also in a lot of that film. But there's like a wide range of characters. We have lots of scenes that she's not in, I would say. So I do think of that as a supporting performance. She got in the right category. Alicia Vikander is a supporting role in Ex Machina. But in The Danish Girl, I guess you argue like she is supporting the Eddie Redmayne character. Like, but that doesn't feel right to me either. What, just because she's a woman? Just because a little bit more of the focus is on the Redmayne character? I don't know. I just think she should have gotten into lead actress at the Oscars for The Danish Girl if she was going to be nominated. But I do think because she was never going to win there was no shot in hell she could beat Brie Larson. It made sense, I guess, from like a practical standpoint. Let's put her in supporting actress and maybe she can win. She's in a lot of that movie. Awards voters watching The Danish Girl are going to see a lot of Alicia Vikander, and that might get her to a win. Well, the category fraud of this situation absolutely helped in securing that Oscar victory for Vikander. And then the 10th and final reason I would say is that Academy members love to reward ingenues. You can win an Academy Award sometimes, even if you don't have like 1,000 credits behind you, even if you don't have 3, 4, 5 Oscar nominations. Sometimes, even if you're very new to the scene, you've only stacked up a few credits in film, you can still win, right? Jennifer Hudson, Dreamgirls, Lupita Nyong'o, 12 Years a Slave. I mean, sometimes the performance is so undeniable, like she has to win, which was the case with Nyong'o. I don't think Vikander in The Danish Girl gave a performance that was undeniable, where everybody was like, oh my God, like we have to give her the trophy. I just think because she was young and new and fresh, clearly a great talent, because she also had that amazing performance in Ex Machina, and because there wasn't a ton of competition in the category. Kate Winslet did not need to win a second one. So you look at the 5 names, you look at like, okay, who are we going to reward this year in Best Supporting Actress at the Oscars? And I do think because she was an ingenue at the time, someone new and fresh in the movies, that also helped her get the Oscar win. So because of all 10 of those reasons, there might be a few more. I mean, some people might say, well, Brian, what about just saying she's really great in The Danish Girl? Okay, I guess like maybe the quality of her performance also got her to a victory. She's good in that film. I'm not going to sit here and say she's bad in The Danish Girl. I don't know. I just think a decade later, it's not a very memorable win. She's fine in that movie. She didn't have to win the Oscar trophy. So that's the story of Alicia Vikander versus Kate Winslet at the 88th Academy Awards in early 2016. I think it's really cool that we did have a race in both supporting actor and supporting actress that year. The leading acting categories, there was zero suspense. It was always going to be DiCaprio in Best Actor and Larson in Best Actress. But supporting actor, supporting actress that year, a few things could have happened. We could have had different winners. It might have been closer than we think. Kate Winslet, as of this moment, could have 2 Academy Awards in her house. It's just the one. At least there's that. And Alicia Vikander, even though I don't love this Oscar win, it's definitely not one of my favorites. She's also very talented. I'm happy she has a trophy. I don't know about you, when I think about Vikander's win in Best Supporting Actress to this day, I don't think of it as for The Danish Girl. I think of it as for Ex Machina. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and let me know in the comments below, what do you think of Alicia Vikander's Oscar victory for The Danish Girl? Do you think Kate Winslet came close to winning? I'll see you next time at the Awards Contender.